somebody could have arrived here illegally, even though they are genuinely being oppressed, maltreated or tortured by the Taliban, and you would send them back there, what, for public lashings?
Well, if people have come across the Channel, they've come through a safe country. They come through France, and so that actually they should have claimed asylum elsewhere along their journey.
I asked the party's deputy leader, Richard Tice, if they found themselves in power, would his party deport every single person who is here in the UK illegally?
That's the ambition, because you can't enter a country illegally and expect to stay there forever. Now, the truth is that we don't know how many people are in the country. As a nation, we don't know where they are, so it won't be easy. It'll take time, but that is the ambition, and we will work to find those people who are illegally, who are working illegally, and detain and deport them.
So it's interesting that you use the word ambition, because that makes it sound like you don't necessarily think this plan is going to work. That there are.
No, we think it'll work. It's just, if you've got, give or take, 1 million people here illegally, we might get to 990,000, but we might miss the last few. That's the point.
Understood. ICE-type raids, is that the kind of thing you are thinking of in order to track illegal migrants down?
We will use whatever technologies and whatever methods are required in order to track people down, and that's including across using data across all the various government departments, much of which isn't done at the moment, and compelling departments, including the NHS, to share that data so that we can identify who is in the country legally and who is here illegally.
Where will you detain, in prison, unaccompanied children?
People who are not here legally will be detained in facilities that are established, fast track, sort of almost like Nightingale-style facilities that were put up during COVID. And we can do the same in terms of those who come here illegally across the Channel or everywhere else. And it will still, of course, be humane. And children, the numbers of children are very, very small, and they would be properly and appropriately looked after, of course. OK, you
say they're small, but there are between 700 to 900,000 illegal immigrants, according to the Migration Observatory, in the UK. A quarter of them are children. How do you know they'd be safe in the way you were detaining them?
Well, because we'll be detaining them and removing them. And the first thing we're going to be doing is offering to people who are here illegally a voluntary return scheme, which is done elsewhere, has worked quite successfully, for example, in the United States. Yeah. And so we should take best practice from elsewhere.
You can't do that with an unaccompanied child, can you? You can't say we're going to give you £2.5 grand and a free flight.
We'll be looking at all of those specifics, and of course we will be humane, but let's be absolutely clear, we are not going to accept people being able to stay in the UK illegally, and we're not going to allow people to have families or larger families as part of their strategy to try and unjustly secure asylum in the UK and stay here.
Will you detain and deport women and girls back to women and girl-hating Afghanistan?
We will look at where people should be returned to. And sometimes, do you know what? You have to do business with people that you may not like. To get a ceasefire in Gaza, you have to do business with Hamas. To get a ceasefire in Ukraine, you have to do business with Putin. It's very uncomfortable. It's not where anybody wants to be.
OK,
but
you say that because you say that, Mr. Tice.
In order to achieve the right aim, sometimes you have to do business with people that you may not like. That's just a hard fact of leadership and running a country, running a government.
So somebody could have arrived here illegally, even though they are genuinely being oppressed, maltreated or tortured by the Taliban in Afghanistan, say, and you would send them back there, what, for public lashings?
Well, if people have come across the Channel, they've come through a safe country. They've come through France, and so that actually they should have claimed asylum elsewhere along their journey. The reason that they've ended up in the UK is because the UK has been far too generous and has become a magnet for people to come here and abuse our hospitality. And the harsh reality is that the vast, vast majority of people coming across the English Channel are actually economic migrants or, regrettably, part of gangs, money launderers, drug dealers and the like.
You say you will do deals with the Taliban in Afghanistan, you'll do deals with the supreme leader of Iran. How much are you willing to give them in order to accept people you want to deport?
Well, at the moment, we give or take £150 million a year of foreign aid to the Taliban. So whichever way you look at it...
No, it doesn't go to the Taliban, does it? It goes to NGOs.
It goes to Afghanistan, and the Taliban rule Afghanistan. That's the harsh reality of life.
And my question is, how much would you be willing to pay them?
Sometimes you have to negotiate and do business with people
You've said
that you may not like.
I'm asking how much.
Well, that's the question of negotiation. We're years away from that, so I can't answer that question. Obviously, it's like asking how long's a piece of string.
I want to check that you still believe in following the result of referendums.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
We're quite good at referendums. We want a referendum.
Pause it right there, because you say you will pull the UK out of the European Convention on Human Rights, which, as you know, is embedded in the Good Friday Agreement, which ended 30 years of conflict in Northern Ireland. People voted overwhelmingly in 2 referendums, north and south on the island of Ireland, in favour of the Good Friday Agreement.
Yes.
You say you want to pull out of the ECHR, which is unravelling their democratic vote.
No, it's not. That's a complete misinterpretation and a misstatement of the reality. The ECHR is in the Good Friday Agreement, but the Good Friday Agreement does not say that the United Kingdom must stay in the ECHR. It is specifically with regard to legislation in Northern Ireland, and there are a number of different ways that different barristers interpret it. It's been discussed and debated in Parliament. There are barristers that have advised me, for example, that say actually it doesn't unravel the Good Friday Agreement if the United Kingdom leaves the ECHR. It's a very specific point.
Right. But people voted for the Good Friday Agreement as it was set up, which involves the ECHR. However...
And that doesn't necessarily legally need to change. That is the reality.
That doesn't make sense. You say you pull the UK out of the ECHR, which is fundamental to the Good Friday Agreement.
Let me repeat again so that it's clear. The Good Friday Agreement does not require the United Kingdom to stay in the ECHR. It is specifically about legislation that is passed in Northern Ireland.
OK. Well, I'm not sure if that's correct.
Well, different lawyers and different barristers often disagree on things. That's the advice that I've received because I specifically asked this a number of months ago.
Finally, Elon Musk said today, after your press conference, unfortunately, the reality is that Farage will do almost nothing to protect Britain. That is obvious. How do you respond to that?
We're leading in all the national polls. You can be friendly with someone but not agree with them on everything. And we've had our agreements with Elon Musk, who's a brilliant entrepreneur. I enjoy many of his fine products. But sometimes you can disagree with friends.
Richard Tice, thank you very much for talking to us this evening.
Thank you.